Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please welcome tonight's Master of Ceremonies, Jerry Vandermeer.
In today's world, perhaps too much emphasis has been given to sport icons and not enough to true heroes. And while many great Kentuckians have filled the history books from Daniel Boone to President Lincoln, there are numerous Kentuckians that deserve recognition for their significant contribution to aviation's advancement and inventions. In 1994, the state's General Assembly designated the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame as the state's official Hall of Fame for aviation. Each year, approximately 4 new enshrinees are inducted, and with tonight's enshrinees, we have now 102 individuals thus far honored to date. Hall of Fame has honored WASPs and warriors, executives and designers, instructors and astronauts, statesmen and inventors, many who have brought change to aviation, some who have greatly influenced the world we live in, all from Kentucky. I encourage everyone to visit the Hall of Fame area off to my left here and located between our 2 hangars where that light is back there. At this time, we wish to present the Kentucky Aviation Achievement Award. This award is given to a group or individual who has shown through their actions an outstanding commitment to the preservation or promotion of aviation or aerospace in Kentucky. This year, it will be presented to Atlas Air Worldwide. Atlas Air Worldwide is a leading global provider of outsourced aircraft and aviation operating services. In 2019, they announced plans to build a new facility in Erlanger, Kentucky, near the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport to support its growing global operations. This new center opened this year. Atlas expects to create nearly 600 additional jobs in Kentucky in the next 10 years. Globally, the company employs more than 3,000 aviation professionals. Let us now see what kind of impact that Atlas growth is having on the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth of Kentucky is a leading global logistics center and an ideal partner for dynamic, growing companies. Kentucky's optimal geographic location, educated and innovative workforce, and affordability attracts international companies to establish long-term business relationships. Atlas Air Worldwide is just such a company. A leading global provider of outsourced aircraft and aviation operating services, it is the parent company of Atlas Air, Polar Air Cargo, Southern Air, and Titan Aviation Leasing Incorporated. Its companies operate the world's largest fleet of 747 freighter aircraft and provide customers the broadest array of Boeing 747, 777, 767, 757, and 737 aircraft for domestic, regional, and international cargo and passenger operations. As a leader with over 28 years of experience serving freight, commercial, charter, and military customers, Atlas saw Kentucky as a prime location to expand its operations. Based at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, Atlas had more than 300 aviation professionals when they announced in 2019 a significant expansion, an expansion that over the next 10 years will add an additional 600 jobs to the Commonwealth. Atlas Air Worldwide was founded in 1992 by entrepreneur Michael Chowdhury, a pilot and aviation consultant. He observed in the early 1990s that passenger airlines were losing money and parking aircraft, while the limited number of high gross weight and long-haul freighters were all fully utilized. At the time, freight hauling was largely an afterthought in the passenger airline industry. Most airlines sold belly capacity for air cargo in the baggage holds of passenger planes operated on passenger routes. Chowdhury saw an opportunity in the air cargo sector and founded Atlas Air, and he began by leasing freighter aircraft to the other airlines. The company started with a single Boeing 747-200 that was converted to an air freighter with China Airlines as the first customer. That aircraft began serving routes from Taipei to Europe. With the operating philosophy, we will grow our business by helping our customers grow theirs, Atlas strives to deliver a powerful combination of an efficient fleet, cost-saving operations, and superior customer service. By 2002, the company grew to more than 40 aircraft and reached the $1 billion revenue milestone. In 2019, they operated 65,031 flights to 400 destinations and 90 countries. Atlas leads the industry in providing contract services for ACMI aircraft, crew, maintenance, and insurance to other airlines. Its impact is global, and it starts with a team of nearly 3,300 talented employees with their headquarters located in Purchase, New York. Other than Kentucky, additional locations include Anchorage International Airports in Alaska and Hong Kong, an operations hub and training center in Miami, and key logistics centers worldwide. Atlas's positive impact on internal employment further extends local, state, and regional economic development, as they also support thousands of jobs among their partners, vendors, contractors, and the local businesses near their destinations. Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky is the 7th largest cargo airport in North America and home to the Amazon Air Hub and DHL Express Global Super Hub. Its regional geographic position is central to more than 11 million people within a 120-mile radius of the airport, enabling convenient access to both passengers and logistics. More than 60% of the U.S. population can be reached within an hour's flight of CVG. Kentucky has established itself as a leading global logistics center, and Atlas has opened its new operations center in Erlanger in 2021. The new facility includes additional office and warehouse space, state-of-the-art technology, and a new maintenance hangar. The site's expansion capabilities include enough space for another 100,000 square foot facility if Atlas needs the additional space in the future. Atlas Air's customer base includes the world's leading express and e-commerce delivery providers, airlines, freight forwarders, shippers, and charter brokers. They are the largest military cargo and passenger airlift provider to the U.S. Department of Defense. Through their work, they enable large companies to access growing markets and manage highly efficient supply chains. Atlas also helps open markets for small businesses, including technology startups, farmers, and craftsmen. Regions and communities in all parts of the world benefit from their reach and impact. Operating the largest fleet of 747 aircraft, Atlas Air's long-standing commitment to the airplane will be honored by receiving the last 747 production airplanes, ensuring that the Queen of the Skies plays a significant role in the global air cargo market for decades to come. It is therefore fitting that Atlas Air, with their overall commitment to the aviation industry and especially in Kentucky, be awarded the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame 2021 Aviation Achievement Award.
Tonight, we are honored to have with us Jamie Handley, Vice President of Express Operations. Mr. Handley has been with Atlas for more than 26 years and has served in a number of positions with the company. Tonight, he will be receiving the Achievement Award on behalf of the company.
All right, good evening. It's a very warm welcome. Thank you so much for having us here. Public speaking is hard enough as it is, but to do it while you're staring down a Vulcan cannon from an F-14, thank you so much. So some of my intro is already covered. My name is Jamie Handley. I am the Vice President of Express Operations and the General Manager of our Cincinnati operation. I've been with Atlas Air for 26 years. With another 6 to 10 years of good behavior, I should be able to get out. I should be able to get out a lot sooner with bad behavior, as it turns out. Prior to Atlas, I was a corporate pilot for the world's largest dehydrator of onions and garlic, so I'm one of the few people who can say they moved up to air cargo for the glitz and glamour. You guys got a great introduction on Atlas. We're not necessarily a household name because we've, as the video is talking about, we have made our customers famous for us. We operate for integrators such as DHL, FedEx, and UPS. We operate for retail organizations like Amazon and Alibaba, international airlines like Qantas, and we fly for 4 teams of the NFL. We support the U.S. Transcom. You saw some of the pictures there earlier with the Air Mobility Command, and we are most recently part of the CRAF activation for the U.S. military for the evacuation of the Afghanistan refugees. We do charters. Thank you. So we do charters, including rock bands, heads of state, Formula One cars, and of particular interest for your neighbors across the street, Kentucky Thoroughbred horses. We are, as you guys heard before, the largest operator of the 747, and in my tenure, we have started off from the 100s all the way through the 747-8s, which are the most recent ones, which is really almost every version of the aircraft. We also operate the Boeing large cargo freighter, which you guys may have seen. It is the Beluga 747 that is used to transport production segments for Boeing for the 777 and the 787. Now, some of you may, with a room full of aviation enthusiasts, may say, well, wait a second, maybe you haven't flown every version of the 747. And you may be right. We have not flown the 100 SP, which is the ultra long range version of the 747. We have not flown the passenger cargo combis or the most recent 747-8 Intercontinental. But what I will say is we have stolen parts off of all of those airplanes, and they are flying today. Our presence here in the Commonwealth has been growing very, very quickly over the last 10 years. We have our key customers in DHL and Amazon, and in 2016, we merged with Southern Air, which is based in Florence, Kentucky. Our center of gravity has been rapidly increasing. We've been pulling people in from everywhere that we can, and our growth has really been fueled by a remarkably deep talent of aviation-wise individuals. You could really say that jet fuel runs in the veins of Kentucky, or it may be high-test bourbon. It burns the same either way, so don't burn the bourbon. Earlier this year, you guys saw some of the pictures earlier, we opened up our new operations center. So we pulled in our group from New York, we pulled in our maintenance control from from Miami, excuse me, and then our local group in Cincinnati, and created one operations center that sees the entire network that we operate of over 100 aircraft, 79 countries, and 280 stations so far this year. So on behalf of the 450 Cincinnati-based employees and the nearly 4,000 worldwide employees, we are exceedingly happy and deeply humbled for this recognition, but we are looking for many more years of prosperity here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Jamie, we'd like to present this plaque to you.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you again, Jamie, and congratulations to Atlas Air Worldwide. Let us now honor those Kentuckians who have been elected for enshrinement in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. By their work, their leadership, and perseverance, they have furthered the Commonwealth's contributions to aviation and aerospace. Our first enshrinee has said, "There were so many times in my life when I'd been told that I would never be able to do something." Well, never is a strong word, and Terry Donner was never going to accept that pronouncement. Let's take a few minutes to review the life and career of Terry Donner.
A report published in 2018 showed that women represented about 18% of the 1.3 million people in the aviation industry. It is only a little more than 6% if you narrow it down just to the pilot category. And it's that 6% that our next enshrinee is trying to change. Teresa Terry Martin Donner is a native Kentuckian, born in Louisville in 1960. At the age of 2, Terry's family moved to Madison, Wisconsin. She has fond memories of when her father, a salesman, took her with him when he went on the road. Mr. Martin would stop at airports anytime he saw a windsock flying in the breeze. He loved the idea of flight, although not a pilot himself. His fascination undoubtedly influenced his young daughter. With the seed of flight firmly planted, Terry, at the age of 16, boistered the courage to take her first plane ride in a Cessna 150. A co-worker at the McDonald's where she worked had a pilot's license and invited her to take a flight with him. Terry was nervous but agreed to go. She thought to herself, if I can live through this, I'll give it a try. From this moment on, her love for aviation grew. She was hooked. Her teenage job provided the revenue to support flying lessons at Maury Airport in Middleton, Wisconsin. At the age of 17, Terry earned her license. Then instrument rating followed. Terry, always up for a challenge, at age 19 entered the 1979 Air Race Classic in Santa Monica, California, an all-female transcontinental air derby. She flew a Cessna 172 from Santa Monica to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she finished 21st out of 62 competitors. In 1980, at the age of 20, Terry completed her commercial and CFI ratings while attending the University of Wisconsin-Madison and studying meteorology. She met and married Ray Donner, a pilot and fellow student. Working full-time at the Wisconsin Department of Transportation as an airport inspector paid for college and for her advanced flight training while flying statewide to 150 public airports to collect the FAA Airport Faculty Directory data. Terry received an Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship in 1981 from the 99s Incorporated, the International Organization of Women's Pilots Organization, to get her multi-engine rating. She realized that having a degree in meteorology was not the career that she wanted. Thus, in 1985, Terry headed back to Louisville and was hired by Stevens Aviation at Bowman Field to work as a flight instructor. She excelled as an instructor, and in 1986, she received the Flight Instructor of the Year award in the state of Kentucky and the Southern region. She earned her multi-engine flight instructor rating and airline transport pilot certificate, all while pregnant with her second son, Charles. In 1988, United Parcel Service announced the creation of UPS Airlines to be located in Louisville, Kentucky. As UPS Air began to grow, Terry saw a new opportunity. She applied in 1989 and was accepted as the flight engineer flying the Boeing 727. 2 years later, she was promoted to first officer, and on June 12, 1995, Terry signed her first flight release as captain on the Boeing 727. Following in his mother's footsteps, Terry's oldest, Nick, pursued his mother's interest in flying and was hired at UPS as an Airbus first officer. Together with his mom, they made history. They worked as captain and first officer on the Airbus A300, the only mother-son qualified crew on transport category aircraft. While UPS has close to 3,000 pilots, very few are women, only about 6%, a number that Terry would like to see change. Terry believes that the main reason why more females are not involved in any aspect of aviation is that they don't know they can be. She wants to change that premise. Young women should be encouraged to look toward the sky for their future. Terry has enjoyed traveling all over the world, speaking to female aviation groups. In 2019, she participated in the first China 99 section meeting in Chengdu, speaking to 300 students. She has facilitated the annual Girl Scout Aviation Day in Louisville every year since 2002, in which over 5,500 girls have been introduced to a variety of aviation careers. Exhibits, activities, and experiences routinely include learning about aircraft engineering and design, aviation jobs, single-engine planes, multi-engine planes, and air traffic control towers, along with cargo planes, military aviation, civil air patrol, hot air balloons, helicopters, aircraft maintenance, flight schools, commercial aviation, the history of female pilots, and education opportunities for girls and young women in related fields. Since the inaugural event, similar Aviation Day events have been held independently in many U.S. states and foreign countries. Terry has witnessed the fruits of her efforts as she inspired females to start their aviation journeys. As a result of their experiences with Terry, some of these girls have become pilots with airlines, aircraft mechanics, or working as air traffic controllers. In recognition of her efforts, she was inducted into the International Forest of Friendship in 2000, and received the Award of Inspiration 2011 from the 99s. Terry has 3 children, sons Nicholas and Charles, and daughter Amelia, all of whom soloed hot air balloons on their 14th birthday. Therefore, in recognition of her inspirational leadership to women seeking a career in aviation, that Teresa Terry Donner be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
So, Captain Terry Donner will be presented into the enshrinement of the Hall of Fame by her son, Nick Donner. As you saw in the video, he also shared in being part of history when he joined his mother as part of the first mother-son flight crew with the UPS flight in June of 2018. Nick is a first officer on the A300 at UPS. He's also a 5-time U.S. National Hot Air Balloon champion and won the world title in 2012. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree. He has been a licensed balloon pilot for 13 years and has over 1,200 hours as a pilot in command of a balloon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nick Donner.
I am honored to be here tonight to present and speak about who Terry Donner was outside of being an aviator. Growing up, my siblings and I, she was always somebody who we could literally and then later on figuratively look up to. From as early as I can remember, I knew my mom was someone special. She was an aviator. Though I don't remember my first flight or flights as a young child, she was the one to give them to me. She instilled in my life her love of aviation. Being in a household with a professional pilot parent can be interesting to say the very least, and then to take the nurture of the family and send her out to not only run the household by cleaning, doing laundry, cooking, taking kids to practices, and all the other obligations that mom has to do, but now she's flying at night, flying the night sort into and out of Louisville for countless years. I can remember on one occasion we needed school supplies, and during one of her night sits, instead of coming home and doing the laundry and making our lunches for the next day, she also had to take the kids to the Bigs, I think like a big Walmart, and get us to our school supplies. Though I don't really recall growing up and mom not being there. I get asked that every so often, but I definitely think my mom was ever present as she could possibly have been. Growing up with mom meant that we could always count on different women pilot organizations and their annual and biannual meetings, from the 99s to ISA to Women in Aviation, and attending those meetings. One such meeting was in Baltimore in 1985. I was well on my way to running the household as a 14-month-old, and during one of the meetings, while being supervised by my father, I got my right hand caught in an escalator. Another time, I think, was about 5, when my mom and some women pilots asked what I wanted to be when I grow up. I'm not really sure what my response was, but one of the ladies, Catherine Snyder, asked if I wanted to be a pilot, and I told her, no, that's girl stuff. So, so clearly growing up around all these women had an impact on my life. It normalized what I would later find out isn't so normal or common. Not only do women fly, but they are some pretty badass women I've had the privilege of flying with. Some are in this very room. Later, I would go on a trip out to Portland with my mom for a 99 convention. My biggest regret from that trip was not going to Mount St. Helens tour, but I got to ride in a vintage car through town and spend time with my mom. On many occasions, we would want to get a hold of mom and not really fully understanding that she can't work at night, come home, get things ready for us, go back out, and then talk to us whenever we wanted. She had to sleep. She carried a beeper with her, and I don't know if it had a silent mode or not, but we could type in the beeper, the home phone number, and 911, and she would call us back even if it really was an emergency. And if the 911 page wasn't enough, then I could go to the bid packet, look up the hotel where mom was, and call the hotel directly. When I was 9, mom decided, or more likely I begged, to go on a work trip with her. She had a week of pure St. Louis to Louisville flying, which meant she commercialed into St. Louis on Sunday, then starting Monday night through Thursday night, she flew into Louisville at about 10 p.m. and then back to St. Louis around 5 a.m. Meanwhile, I was sleeping at the Hilton across from the airport, even though the maid tried to get into the room one night. On this trip, we went to the zoo, the Arch, and I got to see how she would spend her days at work. The one caveat was that when mom got back, I wasn't allowed to wake her up until the clock said 10 o'clock. As I got older, balloons started to play more of a role in what I wanted to do in my life, thanks to the people who were also in this room. Mom made it possible to get the lessons I needed and the balloons so that I could solo on my 14th birthday along with my siblings. Mom not only provided what I needed, but she made herself available to crew, and I'm absolutely confident she had no idea what she was getting herself into, because I really had no idea. Being in Louisville meant no lack of access to balloons, and what I found I liked was competition. Mom was and still is the biggest fan at balloon events. On the cover of one of the ballooning magazines, after one of my nationals wins, was a picture of my mom watching me approach a target in the morning sunlight. You knew it was her because she had on my brother's school hoodie with his name and number on the back. She would do anything for us, from driving balloons around the country to taking us where we needed to be at home, to taking balloons on Polar Air Cargo 747s to Japan so that we could save on the shipping prices. She didn't stop with just her family. She has helped many people get scholarships so that they could live their dream to fly or be a mechanic. I have seen her sacrifice the most precious thing that we have to offer, her time. Later, when I graduated school and got hired to fly with ExpressJet Airlines in 2007, she was able to come to Cleveland and fly on my line check to Albany, New York. She never got to fly on the 747 with me at Atlas because my schedule changed the morning we were to be going to Hawaii, but I got hired on at PSA as a captain, and she was able to fly with me on multiple occasions. On one such occasions, I had my mom, sister, and my oldest niece on the same flights. However, it's the first two flights that were the most memorable when I was a captain. She flew with me from Charlotte to Wilmington, North Carolina, and back. When we were boarded and about to head back to Charlotte from the gate agent came on board and said, "Here you go, Captain Donner," with the last paperwork. And sure enough, Mom turned around like she had the previous 20 years when someone said Captain Donner. The most special time, though, came on June 7th, 2018. There had been calls going out a couple of days for extra flying, and one such trip came out that morning. One of the trips was to show up in the afternoon and fly to Chicago and then fly right back. There was no captain or first officer on the flight, and I asked my mom if she wanted to do it. She agreed, and most importantly, the company agreed. I'm not sure if the dispatcher was aware of what he was doing that day, but that was the first time that a mother and son operated a Part 121 transport category aircraft together. Even though the first plane was broke, and even though she didn't let me have the landing, it was really amazing. Our flight back canceled, and we just hopped on the jump seat of the 767 that was also coming back that night. The most common questions that I got from people about flying with Mom was, "What do you call her?" To me, that is a very confusing thing to ask because obviously I don't call her Captain or Terry. To me, she's just Mom. She will always be, even though she was completely different at work than she is at home. We got to fly 43 times together in horrible thunderstorms, horrific Mexican heat, non-towered Las Vegas airport, and even were able to visit the 911 museum in New York while we were working. Those 96.5 hours I got to spend with her while she was legally my commanding officer will never be forgotten. It's my great privilege and honor to present my mom and Captain Terry Donner.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Terry Donner is now receiving a medallion inscribed in her name and is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
Good evening. I'm very humbled and honored to be honored for simply sharing my enthusiasm for aviation with whoever would ever stop to listen to me. There are many people and organizations that I would like to recognize. Dr. George and Skip Gumbert and Mr. Wendell Murphy for their vision to create the Aviation Museum of Kentucky in Lexington. My longtime friend, 40 years to be exact, 99's member and Charter Life member of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky, Kay Combs Moore, for nominating me for this prestigious award. The Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame nominating committee for selecting me. AMK member Ed LaFontaine for introducing my family to ballooning in 1985. The AMK Aviation Camps for introducing aviation to young boys and girls every summer. the dedicated docents and volunteers that do so much for the museum. The 99s, the International Organization of Women Pilots, who were named after their 99 charter members in 1929 when they elected Amelia Earhart to be their first president. I joined as soon as I was eligible and had my private certificate 43 years ago, and I realized that the doors that were open to me because I won my Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship for my multi-engine rating. I thank my friends from all walks of life who are here tonight with me, and especially my family who has always been supportive of me, even though my flying duties took me away from home quite a bit. It's safe to say that I would not be standing here tonight if a coworker hadn't invited me to take a ride in a little airplane when I was 16 years old. Never underestimate what influence that you can have on someone's life, and you never know who's watching you. Not long after I got my private certificate and people realized that my expensive, dangerous hobby was not going away, I was happy to accept invitations to share my flying experiences. The school newspaper interviewed me. I started speaking to individual classes at schools. I enlightened several women's organizations. But one comment I heard constantly was, "I've never met a woman pilot before." I was happy for years doing the random presentations for special requests, but 20 years ago, I was shocked to find out that only 4.6% of all pilots were female. How could this be? Right then, I decided to concentrate my efforts on increasing the number of female pilots. My own daughter, Amelia, was involved in Girl Scouts and attending workshops on interesting subjects all the time. A quick search showed that there was only one aviation badge available, and it was for middle school age. I enlisted my daughter's troop leader to help develop my mission. Why did I single out the Girl Scouts? Because they were all girls, and they had a great system for advertising their events. Why tell 25 girls about aviation when you can tell 200 at once? So I thought back to my own experience of being introduced to flying. One person invited me and showed me how they could fly a plane. That gave me the idea that I could fly too, and I firmly believe that to be something, you must see someone like yourself doing it. I divided the aviation badge requirements into 8 stations, and I enlisted the help of my Kentucky Bluegrass chapter of the 99s and the local Bluegrass Women in Aviation chapter to be the presenters. I had just a few rules. I required every presenter to be a woman and to be qualified in their career. The presenters included air traffic controllers, aircraft mechanics, Civil Air Patrol cadets and military pilots, airline pilots, hot air balloon pilots, helicopter pilots, flight instructors, retired school teachers telling the history of women in aviation, and some women brought their own planes for the girls to pre-flight. I cautioned these girls to not tell the boys how easy it was to fly airplanes, or they would be trying to take their jobs. There's a huge myth that you have to be a pilot that you need to know a lot of math. That could not be further from the truth. I encourage the girls to take a wide variety of courses in school and be ready to memorize some useful information. But the bottom line is, flying a plane is easy. Some of my best students were females. Some of the gals I soloed went on to the Air Force Academy. Many students went on to airline careers, and one of our Girl Scout attendees was interviewed recently and is supposed to have her final interview next Monday to fly for UPS. The biggest obstacle to becoming a pilot is the expense, and I have assisted many pilots with scholarships through the 99s for the past 40 years. My aviation mentoring has taken me all over the world, and my most memorable experience was attending the first 99 section conference in China in 2019. It was an incredible opportunity to share what I knew and to tour the country for 2 weeks. In the past 20 years, the overall percentage of pilots that are women has slightly increased, and the number of women airline transport pilots has more than doubled. I could not reach so many girls without the help of the women that are here tonight. We are a team. Can you please stand if you've ever helped me with a Girl Scout Aviation Day or invited me to speak at one of your events? Please stand so everybody can see how many people helped me. Thank you very much. When I started taking flying lessons, I did not know that what my future would hold. My high school guidance counselor said that I would never fly for the airlines because my vision was corrected. I just moved right along from one rating to the next and ended up being in the right place at the right time. I'm certain that it was not a coincidence and that the Lord knew exactly what he was doing in my life. I am very grateful that UPS invited me to be on their seniority list. My biggest concern when I started to fly, my biggest concern was if I could combine motherhood and being gone a lot. I decided it was worth a try. Overnight cargo was in its infancy. My other airline friend said, "Poor Terry, she's flying night freight." But I knew one thing for sure, that boxes would be a whole lot easier to deal with than people. I upgraded to captain in 6 years, and my passenger pilot friends were a little jealous. My UPS career was marked with several firsts. I was privileged to fly with some pretty cool female captains before I upgraded, and a lot of pretty cool female first officers. Not the least of which was Emily Howell Warner, the first permanent female pilot hired by a passenger airline in 1973. Her uniform hangs in the Smithsonian, and the first to upgrade to captain. Emily was one of the original pilots hired a year before me at UPS. I was fortunate to be her flight engineer on a Denver to Oakland flight not long after I was qualified. That was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. Emily was born the same year as my mom, 1939. I was the first pilot at UPS to have a baby. Let's just say all eyes were on me. When I walked around to do my 727 pre-flight with the auxiliary power unit running and my earplugs in, my little baby would jump to life in my belly like it was time to fly. I was part of the first all-female crew at UPS. Little did they know that there were 4 females on board because I was pregnant with my daughter Amelia. I was a new captain when UPS branched out into passenger flights for a few years. That was a first. I had come to peace with the fact that I would never be able to take my family on a jet plane. And then I was truly blessed to be able to take each of my 3 kids individually on a flight with Mom. My daughter and I blew the lid off Take Your Daughter to Work Day when she was in the 2nd grade with a flight to Cancun and back. It was the week before Derby, and the Courier-Journal did not cover it because there were bigger horse news things going on. But she strapped on my EAA apron that says, "I'd rather fly than cook," and she passed out snacks. I was not aware that my oldest son wanted to become an airline pilot until it was time to look at colleges. Nick graduated and went right to work for a regional carrier. I was told my first week at UPS that no family members could ever work there as long as I was there. So his dream of being a UPS pilot was going to have to wait because I was not ready to hang it up yet. As soon as he got his company ID at ExpressJet, he came over and rode on one of my last 727 flights. I reciprocated and asked for permission to ride on his regional jump seat a few times. I must admit, I made peace again with the fact that we would never operate as a crew together. But seemingly out of nowhere, UPS dropped the rule and Nick scrambled to meet the qualifications. Then another first. Nick passed the interview, I don't know how, and got a class date. It was surreal. Mother and son both able to fly at UPS. They said this would not happen. But even bigger, there was 4 possible aircraft fleets, and we were on the same one. Now the ribbing and the hackling began. My friends asked, "Are you going to pack his lunch? Are you going to make him carry your bags?" Truth be told, I did not pack his lunch. And without saying a word, he carried my suitcase up that very tall stairs every single time that we flew. My son Chase is a man of few words, but he hit the nail on the head when we found out that Nick was on the bus. He said, "Mom, this means that he will have to listen to you." It was no secret that I had lost control of him at an early age. Everyone knows about our week-long trip, but as Nick told you, we were able to pick up a quick flight to O'Hare without anybody knowing at all. We drove out to the airport together, hopped in the jet, and flew up there. I showed him who was boss, and I took that first landing. It was memorable. The clock was ticking, and I wanted to fly together many times with Nick before I retired. We synced our schedules on a fairly regular basis, but I just wasn't willing to lower my standards to his seniority level and fly all night anymore. I passed my 60th birthday and my 30th year at UPS. Chase and Amelia were making me grandbabies every year. I realized that maybe the firsts were over. I envisioned many years of travel and grandkids. But no, there was one last first, the pandemic. You guys were shopping on the internet like crazy. Our planes were full. The economy needed me. And I told myself, just one more year. That final airline flight can be a really big deal. The fire engine saluted my last landing with a water cannon spray. My whole family got to climb aboard the airplane. And Nick had surprised me with not only flying my last flight, but with flying with me the whole last month. I'm contemplating general aviation again. I've got 6 grandbabies to take for a ride with their go-go. Everything old is new again. I firmly believe that more women are not involved in any aspect of aviation because they just don't know they can be. That's where we can all make a difference. Not everyone here tonight may be a pilot, but you can all tell young people that there's a great future in aviation. I want to be remembered for doing just that.
Thank you, Captain Donner. What an insightful and wonderful, inspirational story of somebody who dreamt really big. Our next enshrinee has had his eyes on the sky since he was very young. After being invited to see the rings of Saturn and being told that you could be paid to look through a telescope, his only reaction was to say, "Sign me up." Let's take a few moments to review the life and career of Dr. Benjamin Malphrus.
Few people in the world can say that they discovered a galaxy, but our next enshrinee can claim just that. Benjamin Kevin Malphrus was born near Hilton Head Island, South Carolina in 1962 to parents Jean and Royce Malphrus. Ben recalled his mother taking him to an event hosted by local amateur astronomers as a young boy. With a wide display of telescopes provided, participants were invited to look at the stars. What stood out most for Ben was Saturn, the 6th planet from our sun that orbits at about 886 million miles from the sun. Ben was intrigued with the 2nd largest planet in our solar system, beginning a lifetime love of the sky. These early experiences and academic inquisitiveness influenced Ben's higher education choices when he selected the University of South Carolina, earning a BA in art. He began his professional career at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Charlottesville, Virginia, as a staff scientist, where he worked until 1988. He continued at USC to complete an MAT degree in physics. The University of West Virginia was Ben's next academic stop, where he earned a Doctor of Education in Physics and Astronomy in 1990. Upon his graduation, Kentucky's Morehead State University welcomed Dr. Malphrus as a faculty member and researcher as he moved through the tenure process to achieve Professor of Space Science. In 2005, Dr. Malphrus served as chair of the Department of Physics, Earth Science, and Space Systems Engineering. He promoted, capitalized, designed, and constructed a $15.4 million state-of-the-art research, development, and education center for space science, and in 2016 was appointed as the executive director. Dr. Malphrus led a team of colleagues from MSU and the University of Florida in developing a theory of galaxy formation that has gained wide acceptance among the astronomical community. Working on this theory led to the discovery of a previously unknown galaxy. It was the first known galaxy proved to exist as a result of galaxy-to-galaxy interactions. MSU's Space Science Center focuses on designing, developing, and operating small satellites and providing hands-on training to the next generation of aerospace engineers through its degree programs. The programs, which Dr. Malphrus helped to create, consist of the BA Space Science, BS in Astrophysics, and BS-MS Space Systems Engineering programs. Under Dr. Malphrus's leadership, the Space Science Center has become essential for research in nano-satellite technologies. CubeSats are a loaf of bread, or smaller-sized nanosatellites that have become the standard for small satellite technologies worldwide. CubeSats, including those developed at the center, are used for various applications ranging from tactical defense to scientific research, including astrophysics research and Earth phenomena and resource monitoring, to practical applications ranging from communications to relaying data from ground sensors. CubeSats are considered disruptive technology by the aerospace industry because they can provide some of the same services as conventional satellites at a fraction of the cost and short development times, and MSU is at the forefront of this emerging technology. In 2016, Dr. Malphrus and the MSU team were awarded a $24 million grant by NASA to develop and send a space probe, the Lunar Ice Cube, to the Moon. The Lunar Ice Cube is a planned NASA nano-satellite orbiter mission to prospect, locate, and estimate the amount and composition of water ice deposits on the Moon for future exploitation by robots or humans. Dr. Malphrus also serves as project director for the 21-meter space tracking antenna, Deep Space 17, operated by the center that provides telemetry, tracking, ranging, and commanding services for low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and near-Earth deep space missions, both independently and as an affiliated node on NASA's Deep Space Network. Dr. Malphrus is well published in scientific journals on topics ranging from extragalactic astrophysics to radio astronomy instrumentation and space systems design and operation. He has published books, copyrighted software, and has served on research and development teams. He has managed over 100 grant projects and garnered scientific equipment for MSU, bringing millions of dollars to the university. In 2017, Dr. Malphrus helped establish the Kentucky Aerospace Industry Consortium, or KAIC, at the request of Kentucky's Lieutenant Governor Janine Hampton. KAIC was established to engage universities, state government, and the private sector in developing and implementing a strategic plan to evolve the aerospace industry, one of the most important industries in the Commonwealth. Dr. Malphrus has served as the president of KAIC since its inception in 2016. Ben is married to Jennifer Carter, who he met at Morehead, and they married in 2004. They have a son, Sagan, who also had his eyes on the sky. Therefore, in the recognition of his leadership in education in the fields of space systems engineering and astronomical sciences, Dr. Benjamin Kevin Malphrus be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Presenting Dr. Malphrus tonight into the enshrinement of the Hall of Fame will be Jennifer Carter. Ms. Carter is the Assistant Director of the Craft Academy for Excellence in Science and Mathematics at Morehead State University and the Director of Space Trek an all-girls aerospace engineering workshop. Formerly as a science teacher at Rowan County Senior High School, Jennifer built a space science program including courses in space systems, engineering, and astronomy. She is a NASA teacher liaison, a SOFIA Stratospheric Airborne Astronomy Ambassador, and a Pulsar Search Collaboratory University leader. Jennifer has had 3 students to discover pulsars and the core of the large collapsed stars in our galaxy. Please welcome Ms. Carter to the stage.
Thank you. Kentucky is an aerospace state. I've heard this statement at least 100 times since 2014. And at the time, I remember everyone looking around at each other saying, really? Who's doing aerospace? And it took some time to gather the details that ultimately suggested that the state was full of businesses contributing to the net $7 billion in aerospace-related exports that year. And at the same time, and independently, Dr. Ben Malphrus at Morehead State University had created and was running a Space Science Center, an academic institution turned R&D facility. Ben's vision of creating a place where students could learn to design and build and test satellites and support them through ground station services with real hands-on experiences had become a reality. For the past 15 years, Ben has led teams of engineers and engineers in training through 10 spacecraft missions, each with increasing complexity. Now, I know it's pretty unconventional for a spouse to introduce someone into Kentucky's Aviation Hall of Fame, but I think I fit the bill. For the past 15 years, we've been living and breathing aerospace in our home, and before that, it was astrophysics. So, yeah, I know Ben's done a lot of really cool things. We saw a lot of those just now in the video. So let's just recap. He was an enlightening and life-changing professor, a leading expert in radio astronomy, discovered a galaxy, and wrote a few books on radio astronomy and space mission design. He conceptualized and oversaw the build of a state-of-the-art aerospace education facility, which established undergraduate degree programs in astrophysics and space systems engineering, and a master's degree in space systems engineering. He conceptualized an instrument that could be used for astrophysics research and space mission support. He capitalized this instrument and led the installation efforts of the 21-meter space tracking antenna at Morehead State University, and its upgrade to become the first non-NASA node in the Deep Space Network. He's brought in more than $40 million in grants and contracts to Morehead State University, more than any other individual to date. And those funds have supported hundreds of students in aerospace education in Eastern Kentucky. Now, he's leading a ground system team that's preparing to support 4 CubeSat missions that are currently scheduled to deploy from the most powerful rocket ever built, NASA's Space Launch System, one of which is their own, the Lunar Ice Cube. Lunar Ice Cube is a CubeSat mission that's scheduled to go to the moon in February and map the distribution of water ice on the lunar surface. And I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting. Yeah, he's done a lot. And yes, these great accomplishments are no doubt what has earned him this great honor of being inducted into Kentucky's Aviation Hall of Fame. But there's more to Ben than these notable accomplishments. The best way I've come to describe him is simply, He's a Renaissance man. I've been calling him this for years because he could do anything. So recently I Googled, what is a Renaissance man? Because I thought if I'm going to call him this, I should know exactly what I'm saying. And in my search, I found the top 10 characteristics of a Renaissance man are: 1, being highly educated. Okay, check. 2, being a gentleman. And in this case, he's a Southern gentleman from South Carolina. And 3, being cultured in the arts. Many people don't know this, but Ben actually has a degree in art. And, well, physics and astrophysics and a couple postdocs, but the art thing. He's an amazing artist, and he plays the guitar. And he builds the decks around our home and our kids' play set and my planter boxes. He loves Pink Floyd, well, the Dark Side of the Moon especially, Jasper Johns, and HGTV's Love It or List It. Ben has a genuine heart and a sweet, sweet soul. He loves his stateside and international collaborators, and he loves his family. He adores his children, Tesla and Sagan, and he cherishes his wife, me. I think there's an intrinsic nature to Ben that I personally believe is his key to success. He's grounded in morals. He seeks to find the positive in every single situation. And he's passionate and sensitive. It's these natural elements of his character that are responsible for his professional and his life successes. Congratulations, my love. You deserve this.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Benjamin Malphrus is now receiving the medallion inscribed in his name and is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
So I'm violating one of my rules, which is never to follow a fantastic speaker. In this case, my wife, Jen. My son, Sagan, my daughter, Tesla, who left, she needs to come back out here. And Jen really appreciate this incredible honor. Just wow, it's extraordinary. I'm only going to say just a couple things because I'm blown away by the introduction here. You guys found a picture of NGC 5291, my galaxy. I hadn't actually seen that picture. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to tell one story, and I promise that'll be it. This would have been about 1990, and I led a team of astrophysicists from Moorhead State and University of Kentucky and University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And we had a theory of galaxy formation that really hadn't been proven. And we got time on the Very Large Array, giant antennas out in New Mexico, in the desert of New Mexico. We got some data in, and it turned out that we had data that was pretty definitive that showed that we had discovered a new galaxy. And as an early career astronomer, I thought, oh my gosh, I get to name a galaxy, right? Because I had friends that had discovered asteroids, for example. And if you discover an asteroid, a giant rock in space, you can name it anything you want to. There are asteroids named after spouses. For goodness sakes, there's an asteroid named 2605 Mr. Spock. So the galaxy we discovered, NGC 5291-B, obviously I didn't get to name, it's named after a catalog, all galaxies, which contain 100 billion star systems, each with hundreds of millions of asteroids, and you don't get to name them. right? NGC 5291-B, my old friend, I'm happy to see. But we didn't get to name it, but I'm not bitter. So there are so many people I could thank. You know, aerospace, we're the space side of aerospace at Morehead State, and our spin-off small companies, Centaurus Space Technologies and Morehead Space Technologies, deal with small sats. We develop small satellites for a variety of different systems, for NASA certainly, but for defense applications, for the intelligence communities. These are incredible technologies that basically make distributed systems now smart constellations that can be overhead at any given time. So it really is pretty extraordinary technology, and we were really just absolutely blessed to be on the forefront of this technology, and had tremendous fun with it. But there are 3 or 4 people that I would really like to recognize that were key to establishing Morehead State and our spin-offs as companies and organizations that are at the forefront of small satellite technologies. Chris Kimmel, formerly from the Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation, in 2004 suggested that Kentucky could become an aerospace state. 2004, people laughed at him. I mean, you know, think of what we were doing in 2004. We were really good at a lot of things. We were good at automotive, we were good at distillation, which personally is still my favorite industry in the state. Equine industry, but we just weren't an aerospace state. And, you know, fast forward 10 years later, aerospace is, you know, a $14 billion industry in the state. So people like Chris Kimmel had the foresight and put, you know, resources that were needed into developing the infrastructure for aerospace in Kentucky. So that was huge. I'd like to thank Robert Riggs. Robert Riggs, I know you're out there somewhere. Maybe you can at least raise your hand. Robert, there he is, way in the back. Robert, more than anybody, has kept aerospace, and you know, aerospace is airplanes and spacecraft, and Robert has embraced the space side of aerospace as much as anybody. And Robert, more than anybody I know, has kept aerospace, both parts of aerospace, in front of the Kentucky legislature for as long as I can remember. So Robert, we owe a tremendous debt of thanks to you. Former Lieutenant Governor Janine Hampton, and she's a great friend of mine. I call her LG. LG's out here somewhere. LG, please raise your hand. LG, thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely. LG did more than any previous administration to support aerospace in the Commonwealth. Creating the Kentucky Aerospace Industry Consortium and trying to attract new companies, and there were phenomenal companies that came under her administration. So LG is, in many ways, responsible for where we are now as a state in aerospace. And I'd also like to thank my family, who has put up with all the time and effort I've put into all these endeavors. My son Sagan, and my daughter Tesla. Incredible kids. And my extraordinary wife, Jen, that you've heard from earlier. So I'll end there, but thank you so much for this extraordinary award. I'm going to hang this one on the wall. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malphrus. Wonderful. You know, we have our families up here, and we have the family of aviation out there. Well, if ever the saying was true, last but not least, it's with our final enshrinee tonight. Dr. Wilma Willie Walker saw the need for a collegiate-level course of study in aviation right here in Kentucky. Starting from scratch, the program began with a 3-hour course in 1982 and progressed to having a full major approved by Eastern Kentucky University in 1991. Today, the program is one of the leading aviation programs in the country. The Bachelor of Science degree has concentrations in professional flight, aerospace management, and aerospace technology. Graduates of the program are professionally prepared for all aerospace industry facets, including piloting, flight instruction, aviation management, and aerospace technology. Let's take a few minutes to review the life and career of Dr. Wilma Willie Walker.
Life began for Wilma Walker at Enterprise, Kentucky in 1937. Her parents, Harry and Ola, lived up in a holler down a rutted dirt driveway in Carter County. Mom was an elementary school teacher, and her dad, a graduate of Moorhead Normal School, worked a variety of jobs to support the family. Education was greatly valued in the Walker household, so Willie graduated Olive Hill High School after only 3 years. She then continued her study at Moorhead State College, graduating again in only 3 years with a secondary teaching certificate and a major in commerce and geography. Willie started her career as a junior-senior high school teacher of math in Lincoln Park, Michigan. After 4 years, she applied and was accepted into the Department of Defense U.S. Air Force program educating military-dependent children. Initially, the job took her for 2 years to Molesworth Air Force Base in East Anglia, England. There, she taught business and geography, followed by another year at Wheelus Air Force Base in Tripoli, Libya, before returning to the States as a math teacher in Los Angeles. After 3 years in L.A., Willie came home to Kentucky and completed coursework for her master's and doctorate degrees at the University of Kentucky, and subsequently accepting an assistant professor position at Eastern Kentucky University in the geography department. Dr. Joseph Swinderman, a former naval aviator and then chair of the geography department, hired Willie originally as a geography instructor. But he soon moved into a vice president position and implemented a feasibility study for an aviation program at EKU. Willie had always had an interest in aviation and was asked to coordinate the efforts of starting a program at Eastern. Dr. Walker added to her credentials and became a ground school instructor and worked with the Madison County Airport to establish flight training. In 1983, EKU offered its first academic aviation course in private ground flight, followed by an established minor in 1984. Developing and teaching aviation courses was in addition to Willie's full-time duties as a geography professor. Nevertheless, a short 7 years later, EKU began offering a major in aviation, making Eastern the first and only 4-year aviation degree program in Kentucky. 25 students declared an aviation major in the first year, and the numbers have continued to soar to over 325 in 2021. Today, Eastern offers degrees in professional flight, aerospace management, and aerospace technology, and their alumni are employed in a variety of professional aviation careers, including administration, operations technician, and commercial pilot. Teaching tools have been updated to a state-of-the-art simulator and artificial intelligence simulators. Dr. Walker served as chair for both geography and aviation for the last 14 years of her career. Many of her former students are her closest allies. Let's listen to what a couple of her former students have to say.
I'm Lisa Anderson, and I met Dr. Walker at Eastern Kentucky University when she was assigned to be my advisor. This is after I changed my major about 8 times. She was a little intimidating at first, but she suggested that I think about the type of life that I wanted to live, and then look at those jobs that would lead me to that life. And then, what are those skills that I needed for those jobs? She then pulled out the EKU catalog and made a direct challenge. Find the EKU program that best matched my aspirations, and if it didn't exist, design it yourself. Well, I think both of us were surprised when I took her full advice and I designed my perfect major. I presented it to Dr. Walker, and apparently she liked it too, because through her leadership, EKU had its very first Bachelor's of Arts in Geography, Travel and Tourism degree program. I'm one of the first to graduate from the program, and I was surprised to learn that that same program stayed on the EKU catalog for about 15 years. But she also strongly suggested that I take one of her aviation programs. And I'm so grateful I heeded that advice. That's meant everything. Thank you for that. Because of Dr. Walker's approach, I learned very young that I could take control of my own destiny. And I had the responsibility for my own decision making, and she taught me the importance of trust and champions. and finding champions that help support your goals. She also helped prove to myself that I had the ability to refocus and change the direction of my life when I needed to. I learned I could challenge norms, think analytically, and be creative. Who knew? Thanks to Dr. Walker's guidance over 30 years ago, I have had an incredible adventure with this life I've been given. I don't know if Dr. Walker's had the same impact on other students, but I do believe that she knows the importance of presence, the power of your presence, and then the value of demonstrating care. And I'm so incredibly grateful that she shared that with me.
I first met Dr. Walker in 1984 when I began to pursue a minor in aviation. In 1986, under Dr. Walker's tutelage, I began a master's degree program and was hired by her to teach in the aviation program at Eastern Kentucky University, working with new flight students. Thanks to Dr. Walker's guidance and persistence, I was able to complete my master's degree and enter into the competitive field of commercial aviation and was hired by American Airlines. After 40 years, I still consider Wilma my friend and my mentor.
Dr. Walker's influence at EKU and in the Richmond area continues. The aviation program at EKU is expanding and improving with a current fleet of 27 single-engine Cessna 172s, 3 twin-engine Piper Senecas, and they were recently named the FBO for the Central Kentucky Regional Airport, as well as 25% owner of the airfield. Dr. Wilmo Walker's leadership has been instrumental in developing a nationally recognized aviation program where recruiters come seeking highly qualified candidates and where students get offered exciting careers in aviation. Although Dr. Walker retired in 2000, she continues to be involved in many endeavors, especially those relating to charities, education, and aviation. A few of those are the Bluegrass Community Foundation, Morehead State University Foundation, Richmond Rotary Club, Kentucky Aviation Association, a charter member of the Aviation Museum of Kentucky, and a member of the Madison County Airport Board. Therefore, in recognition of her pioneer achievements in aviation education, it is fitting that Dr. Wilma Willie Walker be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Presenting Dr. Walker is her dear friend, Mary Owsley, a 1974 graduate of Eastern Kentucky School of Nursing. Mary has dedicated her career to health policy and executive leadership in healthcare. More importantly, she has been a lifelong friend of Willie. Please welcome Ms. Owsley to the stage.
Thank you very much. It is such an honor tonight to introduce Dr. Wilma June Walker Thompson to all of you, and as you have heard from her video. Willie is a lifelong friend. She refers to me as her all-weather, all-purpose friend. There's a lot of detail that goes in that, I can guarantee you. But I am so honored to hold that place of distinction. We often talk these days as perhaps we have grown just a little older. That is wonderful to have a best friend, that you can share the good times, the sad times, and always be ready for a martini at 5. And share a lot of laughter and a lot of memories. On occasion, I ask Miss Willie, is there anyone you don't know? Because whether you're on a ship going through the Panama Canal or walking down the street in New York City, and this is a true story, you will hear someone saying, Willie, Dr. Walker, is that you? And invariably, you look up and Willie says, oh my goodness, that is, just fill in the blank. Because it is so many times, so many occurrences that this happens. Many times it's a former student, a colleague, or a friend. But far more importantly than that, as I listen to these conversations, always, sometimes at the beginning of the conversation, Sometimes at the end of the conversation, it's simply intriguing to listen to them talk. They always highlight an important memory, or more importantly, a moment or event that impacted this student's or this friend's life. As I listen, sometimes in true wonderment, I always think of the tremendous impact this individual, Miss Willie as I love to call her, has had on so many lives through the years. And many of those individuals are here with us tonight. Yes, friends, family, former students. And what do former students say? Whether a former congressman or a most accomplished and rewarded Delta pilot, Catherine Reynolds, who is here tonight, or someone who simply refers to themselves as, oh, I'm just an ordinary person. Number one, they all hold Dr. Walker in a place of great respect. And they remark that as a professor, she had such a passion for her subject matter. She kept your attention, and you never ever forgot or forget what she taught you. And for the female students, they always remember exactly the way she dressed, because it always is impressive for those of you that know Dr. Walker. Just last month, at Willie's induction into the Morehead University Alumni Hall of Fame, when beginning the introduction, the Vice President of Development stated that on Founders Day of the university last year, everyone was asked to dress as a Morehead icon, and she chose Dr. Walker. As she said, right down to the butterfly on the shoulder, I had it down. I looked up a definition for an icon: one who has ushered in some significant cultural moment or known for their actions or talents. I believe that definition fits Dr. Willie Walker. What a lady she is, as you have heard tonight, from a teenager who dreamed of being a pilot and was told, oh, we don't think so. After all, you are a female. You should seek other ideas or other dreams. Now, for those of us that know Dr. Walker well, we understand that no is not a good approach. Because she just digs in, she becomes more determined, and she finds another way. So yes, she did become a pilot. Not the commercial pilot as she had dreamed, but took the dream to levels that I think even she never envisioned. From, again, as we have heard, from the beginning at EKU with just a few students to now 325 seeking bachelor's degrees. Professional flight, aerospace management, technology. She has enabled thousands of others to reach their dream of being a pilot. Who would have thought, as she says, a little girl from a holler in Carter County could do what she has done? There were so many who have enabled her success, but none more so than her parents. A mom who loved her and taught her, yes, literally taught her, as her teacher in grade school. And a father who pulled out the geography books and the World Atlas and showed her the world while sitting on the floor with her in a small house in the mountains of Kentucky. He inspired her to take the world by storm, and she did that, from California to England to Africa, and influenced all of the people that wherever you go, or seeking out just one more conversation with Willie. She sought her doctorate degree and saying, yes, I can start an aviation program. Now, I'm not sure I know how to start an aviation program, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. And figure it out she did, above and beyond anything we could have dreamed. Each time that I watch the video of Eastern Kentucky University's today's most valued, most valuable, and important majors, and I see that airplane lift off and fly over our campus, I think, who would have thought that this individual could do this, influence so many, create the opportunity for a world of new pilots who are setting the world on fire. Please help me bring a true icon out, Dr. Willie Walker Thompson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. William J. Walker Thompson is receiving the medallion inscribed in her name and is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
Well, you know something that's in fashion is long dresses, even those that run around on the floor. I just fell over mine coming up the steps. So, but I also wanted to say, wow, if what Mary just described is really me, probably my best move would be simply to say thank you and sit down. I'm actually not going to do that. They told me I should say something more. So I guess one of the things that's happened through all of this process is the memories that have come back. You know, memories are something you make, they go away, they come back. And one of the things that Mary alluded to is, as a young teen, I can remember looking up and seeing airplanes flying over, and I thought, oh, I want to do that. And I actually did have the audacity to write to a couple of airlines. And I did receive a response. I'm sorry I did not keep the letter. But what they actually told me is that they had no policy against women pilots, but don't bother, we're not anticipating hiring any. That was TWA. You know what's happened to TWA? So, years passed from that, of course, and I traveled a good deal, having the geography background. And the memory remained, however, and I decided to take the next step and actually learn to fly. That was many years later. And Joe Swinderman, whom you saw in the film, was at that point the VP, but he was my flight instructor. He was a Navy pilot, and he loved to fly, and he was very much an aviation enthusiast. He also had the opportunity to do a feasibility study to see whether Kentucky needed an aviation program, university aviation program. And of course, you know how the feasibility studies work. You design them a little bit however you want them to come out. And of course, we needed one in Kentucky. So he was able to make it happen, and he tapped me to develop it. I don't know, I never asked him why he tapped me, maybe enthusiasm, but whatever it was, as I would kid him about, he took me from normal work days in the geography department to some 20-hour days. I said it really worked beautifully. But that was in 1981. So you can count the years and tell how many years we've been at this. But the first 7 years that we were developing the program and putting it in place and getting a minor and whatever and finding out about the airway science program and all those good things, we had only part-time faculty in aviation. Can you imagine the difficulty in finding credentialed aviation people to teach a class here and there? So it took a lot of time to do that. In the meantime, I'm still a full-time faculty in geography. So those are the 20-hour work days. Perseverance and strong support from Joe Swinderman and also from Dr. Kenneth Hansen, who was the dean of the college in which aviation was housed. He also being a strong aviation enthusiast. Those two individuals is one of the reasons I wanted to say more to you tonight, simply to say they need to be remembered. They are now deceased, but as people who helped keep the aviation program in place. Now, ultimately, we had the president, Handley, who became a supporter. He had not really been one initially, but we went to the Council on Higher Education to get our degree approved in 1989, and they turned us down. We joked about the fact that they didn't think aviation was here to stay. But Dr. Funderburk was annoyed enough about that he became the supporter, and we were able to go back and finally get the degree in place in '91, as you heard somewhere in all of this narrative. Initially, we had a graduate in '91 because this individual had taken all the courses necessary to get the degree. We had 25 majors, and then you've seen what else has happened with the program since then. Of course, I have been retired for many years, and maybe some of this is more information than you really wanted to hear. But I did want to make sure that these three administrators were recognized, because without them, probably the program would have failed long before it got off the ground, as we would say. And I guess, you know, as I say, they're all deceased at this point, but maybe family members or other people who know them would make them aware. I am delighted to be able to thank not only those people, but all of the other people who were supportive throughout those years of development of the program, and especially the students. And I have a number of people here tonight who were familiar with and helped the program, but I do have two students, one that you saw in the video, Lisa Anderson Spencer, who is here, and you saw some of her credentials. Sam Mason was supposed to be here, but tragically he was exposed to COVID and couldn't make the trip. He lives on the East Coast. And the other one that is here is Catherine Reynolds, who is a captain with Delta Airlines, to show you what, of course, we already know women pilots can do. I would like to have, Lisa, will you and Catherine please stand up so people can see you? If we have a little light. Very good. Thank you very much. And maybe more information than you needed, and actually that's all I really wanted to say, except thank you to the museum members, to the personnel with the museum and so forth, for making this honor for me available, because it really is a dream, a memory that has become, that was a dream that has become true. So thank you very much.
And now our traditional benediction. John Gillespie Maggie's High Flight, that beautiful ode to human achievement in the skies, narrated by our good friend, the late Ray Holbrook. Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor even eagle flew. And while with silent lifting mind, I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. Go in peace. Good night.